Now, Craig, you mentioned that both of your kids are adults now. When they were younger, did you read with them?
I travelled a fair amount, so it wasn't a daily thing, but it was just enough of doing it that it really meant something. And it's very precious, special times together. Going back to what the question you asked now, I mean, this book which we sell, women buy, and it's for men, women buy it far more than men. And they give it to their men,
Yes, exactly.
And they're often the ones saying, come, So women, I think, are bigger readers than men, generally.
Now, fathers aren't the only ones who play a role in the development of children. There's also other family members and teachers. Now, what can these people do to help influence children when it comes to reading?
If you're not sure of sort of what's good or where to start, there are great websites. You can go to your local library. They often have a dedicated person in their children's section, or a bookstore that might have a person who's dedicated to children's books. And just ask, say, I want to read to so-and-so in my life. Sometimes it's literally people wanting to read to their nanny's kids, or a granny who only sees her grandchildren once a year, So there are people, you help find the right story, because you want to create that bond and you want the bond to last, because that is the introduction to reading, So I always say, if you're a reader, the world is so much better for you, because you're not scared of asking for help. I always say to people, like, when you travel, you don't mind reading the guide or asking someone where you go, because you're a reader. You don't mind it. You don't mind looking for information. You don't mind saying, I don't know that, let's find out. So you're just really a better person. So even if it's you just need a small seed in, and then the world's your oyster.
Varushka, I see you've brought some books here to show us. What can we use to introduce reading to boys, and then what reading material can we use as they grow older?
Of course, you want to start off when they're really little. So when they're really, really little, you also know they pretty much just chew them. They chew them, and they sleep with them, and they take them to the bath when they're made of paper. But it's an object that they grow to love. And we find humor is really the best way to start for boys. Humor and a little bit of toilet humor, sadly. For moms, sometimes I think quite horrific, but it's what they love, and it makes them laugh, and they want to hear the story again, and that's what you want. You want something that becomes familiar to them. Because when you're so little, the world around you is constantly changing. But if there's a story that you love, that becomes your familiar, which is a great way to learn to love books. I brought with, for little ones, a local story, Herd Boy, Nikki Daly. It's a great story. It's loosely based on the life of Madiba. It's about a little boy who's a herd boy, and he wants to become the president. But it's also got this great picture where one day in it he meets a man who comes past where he's working, and you can see from the sketch that obviously that is supposed to be Madiba. Yes. And it ends with that anything is possible. It's a great dream story. Anyway, I love this book. Jack in the Flum Flum Tree. Julia Donaldson has written gazillions of millions of books. This is definitely my favorite. Jack goes on an adventure to help his granny who's ill. The thing is also, you have to look for books that read well. Some books are good stories, but when you read them aloud, you think, this is ridiculous. This doesn't work. No one ever read this book. Anyway, so find things that work for you.
Okay.
When they get older, they like having a character that they can read more than one story of. Someone like Claude. This is Claude. This is his best friend, Mr. Bobby Sock. And the illustrations are lovely. They're also obviously aimed at the adult who has to read them, so they've got detail. They're classics like Nicholas. Nicholas has been around for a million years. It's the guy who wrote Asterix and Obelix.
Okay.
Translated out of the French. They're old, but they're so funny. And when you read them aloud, you literally have to sort of gather your composure, because otherwise you're giggling so much no one can hear what you're saying. Also a local series that I love, Dog Detective. It's about a dog who gets adopted from the SPCA, and then his owner realizes he can talk, and then one day he says to him, I am so bored in the suburbs. I'm a dog detective. And they go and they do these brilliant adventures. She lives in Cape Town. She writes these really cool stories. Yeah. And then as they grow older, it's whatever the trends are.
Yeah.
So currently dystopian books like Hunger Games definitely sparked a series of reading. And with that, there's a lot of conversations you can have with your kids because it looks at socio-political situations and you can talk about things. So be aware what your kids are also reading and make sure that they're reading age appropriate in the sense that they are mature enough to understand it. You can't say like you have to be 13 to read this book, because one 13-year-old, you know, in some senses can run their own little household because the mom is no longer there or something. Another 13-year-old still plays with dolls. You can't go on. It's not necessarily an age thing. It's their maturity level.
Now, Craig, what topics do you think that boys and men are most interested in? What should we be giving our boys to read?
Well, I think there is an innate difference in terms of what drives the masculine soul and the feminine soul. I think with men, you know, one author put it very well. He said that innate in a man is three desires. One is a battle to fight, an adventure to live, and a beauty to pursue. So I think books that have battle and have adventure and excitement and overcoming and fire, I think those are the kind of books that really do draw men. And noble adventure too, great adventure. Books about the early adventurers and the sailors who didn't know if they were going to go off the end of the earth. This kind of stuff inspires boys and draws them in. And someone to rescue, that kind of stuff. To be the hero. Those are the kind of books that really draw boys in.